So one of my big things is connect, converse, create. Connect with self, warts and all. And as we more authentically connect in here, then we can have those more authentic conversations with others. And then when we have those authentic conversations with others, we can start creating in unison for the betterment of the whole tribe, so to speak.
This is Chocolate and Coffee Break, a compassionate proposition, a space to share stories, bridge divides, and spark meaningful connections. So grab your chocolate, pour your cuppa, and let's break down barriers, one conversation at a time. And now, here's your host, Andrea Putting.
And welcome to Chocolate and Coffee Breaks, a compassionate proposition where we break down the barriers that divide us by sharing real, raw, and meaningful stories over chocolate and coffee. So I hope you've got your chocolate and coffee ready and you're ready to sit back and share in another meaningful episode. So today we're sitting down with someone who has walked boldly across boundaries most avoid, from boardrooms to jailhouses, from self-discovery to social change. Robyn Walker is a speaker, facilitator, and the author of Being a Wise Leader. Her life's work is a call to remember the innate wisdom and to lead from it. So welcome, Robyn.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. And I like to start with a little conversation starter.
Okay.
So let's see where we go from here. So I've just randomly pulled out. Here we go. What is one thing you are determined to do in your lifetime?
Oh my God. Now you see, I could well up with the tears. Okay. The one thing, you're talking professionally?
Whichever way you want to go.
Okay, well, I'm going to go professionally. The one thing that I would determine to see in my lifetime would be for people to understand and live the concept of separating person from behaviour.
Ah, that's fascinating. And I'm sure that is what we're going to explore today. So that's a really good segue. Thanks, Robyn. So let's start with an idea that's important to you, that we're all born with this innate wisdom and that age deepens that wisdom and it doesn't diminish it, because, we have a bit of a ageism problem that happens in the world as we discover as we get to this kind of, I really think it is our golden years. It's the best years of our lives. So what have you come to trust in your own knowing that only time, lived experience and aging can reveal?
To listen to my own inner sense of who I am, who we are, rather than listen to other people's, I'm going to use the word wounded perception, because I honestly believe that in that whole thing about we're all born with innate wisdom, because our indigenous peoples, they taught this to their young'uns. They taught their young'uns that, they were all part of the village, part of the tribe. And sadly, in our more Western culture, we're more individual. We don't necessarily think of the tribe when we make decisions. So stepping back into our innate wisdom, it firstly is about understanding that if we're not happy within who we are, then we're going to project that happiness onto others. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does indeed, very much, because often when we prejudge people, which is what prejudice is, it comes from our own sense of judging ourselves, I guess.
Yes. So I don't know that necessarily, and getting back to that question of yours, I don't know that necessarily as we, have more decades orbiting around the sun, that we're stepping further into our innate wisdom. I think it is part of that, but I think in our Western culture, because we haven't been introduced to it as youngsters, it looks like it is quantum leaps as we get older, in becoming more wiser within life's journeys.
Yeah.
I just wish, even as a teenager, I used to do a lot of poetry, and what would come through, and I look back at the poetry now because I still have it, and I go, whoa, I really had wisdom then, but the difference was I wasn't living it in here. I didn't necessarily see myself as being a wise person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the world was telling me differently.
Well, it does. It does. We have that thinking that we're not really very wise. Well, we think we're wise, but the world says that we can't be.
Yeah, I guess. Narrowing all this down into a short talk with you is like so many thoughts come in. One of the things I talk about in my trainings and my presentations, the left brain information, right brain integration. So the left brain is more the thinking side, the right brain, as we know, is more the emotional side. So for many people on this planet, yes, they have the information, which is more external. They're not necessarily integrating it within themselves. So one of my big things is connect, converse, create. Connect with self, warts and all. And as we more authentically connect in here, then we can have those more authentic conversations with others. And then when we have those authentic conversations with others, we can start creating in unison for the betterment of the whole tribe, so to speak. Yeah. And we are a global tribe.
We are, especially these days where we're all connected so easily with the internet. So you talk a lot about, I know that eldership is important to you.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about that importance of eldership and claiming that eldership in our lives?
Yep, absolutely. And I guess, eldership is important for me because I'm now of the age of eldership. I can actually embrace. I've had a very interesting life, as we all have. And I've been blessed with 30 plus years of working at the coalface in human behaviour. And as you said, from the boardroom to the jailhouse and most points in between, travelling around suicide prevention programs, kids at risk, men who have been convicted of domestic abuse, women whose families have been at the other end of domestic abuse, just so many areas. And that's the one thing that I have understood is that connectivity to self. So for me, eldership is stepping further into that as we have more decades in lived experience. I'm also very big on men's business, women's business. Again, more in the aspect of how our indigenous people honoured. There's an amazing woman, Hannah Rachel Bell, who sadly is now passed. She wrote an amazing book, Men's Business, Women's Business, the spiritual role of gender in the world's oldest living culture, our Aboriginal people here in Australia. And she was very blessed to work alongside an Aboriginal male medicine man, and he taught her the aspects of men's business, women's business. And loosely speaking, it's the men's business to support the tribe, and the men's business to support the women, and the women's business to support the tribe. And of course, the men are part of the tribe. But I think so often women in our Western culture are told, well, you're going to have the knight on the big horse, going to come and save you, and he's going to, and that's not how it works. Apparently, women are meant to sit in circle, whether it's having a coffee and chocolate, on a beach, meditating, whatever. And it's about women empowering each other, and then they go home and empower their menfolk. Does that make sense?
It does. And we seem to have forgotten that somehow in in society, and we don't look at how we can connect with each other. Instead, we're living very solitary lives.
Yes. And I find that as I talk about this, and of course this is not, this is not rocket science. This is ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
And I find that as I talk about it, then people go, yeah, you're right. I knew that. I just didn't know I knew that. It's that light bulb moment.
Yep.
Or what I call the BFO, the blinding flash of the obvious. So, it's not me creating this information. It's just simply that, in working at the coalface in human behaviour for 30 plus years, I've just been very blessed to be part of people's journeys.
Yeah, you have been blessed, and we're blessed to have you here. And we're going to catch some more of that wisdom that you have after we've had a quick chocolate nip break, and we can listen to the sponsors that we have on our show. So take a listen while I grab a bit of chocolate.
Did you know that only 30% of speakers are women and that only 13% of panels feature women? In order to change that, there is now a directory at womenspeakers.com.au where you can go and search for a speaker. We also have groups on Facebook and LinkedIn under the name Australian Women Speakers, where you can just go and post about your event and women will respond.
How far would you go to keep your loved ones safe when everything else falls apart? In 1945, Ellie and her family risked everything to escape the horrors of war. They fought through frozen landscapes, bombed cities, and an unforgiving world that seemed bent on destroying them. Would you risk your life to keep your family together, even when survival seemed impossible? In the midst of despair, they found the courage to continue. This is their story.
And Silently Falls the Snow, available now on Amazon.
Robyn, your work has taken you into the jails, which I find absolutely fascinating. What drew you to go into the jails to work with prisoners?
Okay. Firstly, I don't call them prisoners. Sorry.
Well, I've got to use the words that everyone's going to connect with. So we've now changed them from here on in.
And it's not, obviously having a go at you, but this is the language we use in our Western culture. We use the word perpetrators, we use the word criminals, and it's sort of like, and that's my whole thing about separate person from behaviour. When we start to look at, when you're holding a newborn baby, when anyone holds a newborn baby in their arms, it's like, what is it that we see? What is that we feel? Do you want to answer that question for me when you've held a newborn in your arms?
Oh, absolute perfection. And the world is open and expansive. And I like to take that into that we always have that perfection.
Yes. And such vulnerability, such innocence. So the question I often ask is, what happened to that innocent, helpless little being that they grow up to do such atrocious behaviour? And so I went into women's Berrima women's jails back in around 2002, 2003 when it was still open. And that was through an organisation called Enough is Enough, Ken Maslow. And it was just fascinating. I went in a few times, and when I would come out and hear those big doors just slam behind me, my heart would just break. So many people that are in jail. And yes, I'm not saying that when someone does behaviour that affects themselves and or others, I'm not saying let them run free in our community to do worse behaviour. That's not what I'm saying. But I also know that it's not necessarily a place of rehabilitation. It's kind of like Like one of the things, for example, with men's business, it's the elder men's business to work with the younger men, to show them what being an authentic male is, and respecting self, respecting women, respecting nature, respecting the community, and taking them out into nature. We know over and over again when people who have created, I'll use the word crimes, behaviour against society, when we take them out into nature for an extended period of time with people that understand how damaged the psyche can be when vulnerable babies, little children, are brought up in violent families, in violent communities. I mean, goodness knows what it must be like for young people in places around our world at the moment that are continually being bombed. I mean, what's that doing to them? And what's going to happen to them in the world when they grow up that they haven't been held safe? Is this making sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but how do we go from, okay, someone has come out of a prison.
Yeah.
How do we now move past that to allow them to now live to their full potential, to reconnect with that perfection of who they are and all that potential they had when they were first born?
Yep, absolutely. Part of, I mean, yes, having facilitated programs, government and corporate and all the rest of it. I've also been blessed facilitating a lot of programs for organisations that were part of Centrelink, so people chronically long-term unemployed, and many of those had been people that had been in jail and had come out. And one of my in doing those programs, so they often went from between 5 to 7 to 9 to 10 days, depending on which organisation I was contracting to. And yet again, when we introduce people, firstly to separate themselves from what it is that they have done, instead of making the person continually wrong. And we know our neurology, we know the neurological pathways, they just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. But when we start to come to step back and say, share with me a little bit of your story. Tell me what happened when you were a kiddie. It's not about making parents wrong. It's not about making grandparents wrong. The Hopi Indians have a beautiful saying. They say that as we heal ourselves, we heal 5 generations back.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And we now know about intergenerational trauma. I mean, it's fascinating. If we had longer, I could tell you some amazing stories of just how we can feel the emotion when we go to places that we didn't even know that our family, our forebears used to live. It's just fascinating. There's so much that we still don't understand about us as a humanity, as a collective, as a species that's been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
There's, I guess that's why I love human behaviour, because I find it so fascinating. The capacity to do great good and the capacity to do such incredible harm to so many. And we're seeing that being played out in our planet at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are. And I could do multiple episodes on all of the different things. Well, pretty much all of my episodes.
Yes.
And hopefully we can help to make the world a bit of a better place. I'd just like to share that quote that you used from Oscar Wilde. Can you?
The one about
Saints
is the beginning of wisdom, that one?
Oh, it's all right. I've got it right here in front of me. All saints have a past and all sinners have a future.
Yes. That's in my book, Being a Wise Leader.
Yes.
Yes, because I created, part of when I do my trainings, I use a behavioural style, and over the years, I ended up creating my own that taps into We're all born with innate wisdom, the 4 wise leadership styles now. So I wrote a book around it. And yes, so that one with Oscar Wilde, I love that. And when I found it, I went, I have to put that in the book, that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. And it's not even talking about it in a biblical sense.
No.
It's simply using words that people understand the meaning of.
Yeah. It's like if we throw that back into the biblical thing, it's he who has not sinned can throw the first stone, and
Yep.
So we all have something in our past that's not quite savoury or to other people. So yeah.
And look, the reality is we also do stuff in the present. You know, I was doing a talk on the Gold Coast last week at the Healthy Aging Summit, and I was sharing there and talking about all this. And, it's like when I'm driving and someone cuts across me, and there's a part of me initially will go, oh, for fuck's sake, idiot. And then I pull back and go, Robyn, breathe, idiot behaviour.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of our limbic brain that when we judge another, our limbic brain doesn't separate myself from others. It doesn't separate you from others.
No.
So what I say about another, the part of the limbic brain thinks I'm saying it about myself.
Yeah. So we're bringing ourselves down.
Yes, exactly. So connecting here first,
Yeah.
warts and all. It's not making excuses. It's not covering up, but it is going, okay, done screw up. How do I step back into present time and step back into a less angry and a more calmer mindset?
So let's just take another quick break while I fill up my cup. And while we're having the break, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment on the show so that we can keep in touch and hear some more, and listen to the sponsors because they help to make it all happen.
Hello, I'm Annie Burke, Cosmic Heart Intuitive. I'm the animal-human relationship enricher. I help animal parents connect with their animals, living or in spirit, through telepathic conversations. And you too can learn how to connect with your animal telepathically with my mentorship program. It's just amazing what you can learn from your animals about their past lives, their current life, and their future lives. It will change your life. It will change their life.
You've ticked the boxes: career, commitments, calendar that's more packed than your pantry, but something's still missing. In Compassionate Purpose, Andrea Putting invites you to stop chasing busy and start living with intention. This book is about real fulfillment through small acts of compassion, purpose-driven service, and meaning that last. No pressure, no perfection, just purpose with heart. Compassionate Purpose, Discovering a Life of Fulfillment. Search for Andrea Putting on Amazon.
But Robyn, I'd like to get to the heart of things. So why is it that this is so important to you? What's drawn you onto this path and gives you this passion for, well, making the world a better place?
Even as a youngster, I'd always been curious about what people did in the world. My mum once said to me, Robyn, you've always been like this. And I've gone, okay. And I've always wondered why. I was born at a time when, so my mum and dad met when they were 16 on a blind date. They wanted to get married when they were 18. They were told they were too young. And a lot of younger people this day don't kind of get what society judgment was way back then. And, you got two young people who are totally in love, who want to get married. They're told they're too young. Well, guess what? Muggins here decided to come in. And my mum, my mum who didn't ovulate very frequently, didn't discover that I was there until she was 5 months pregnant. So then they got married. But for my mum back then, it was such a shame thing.
Yes.
And I can remember at the age of 12, I was in the school bus because I'd in high school, and one of the kids in the school bus stood up and said Robyn's parents had to get married. And I went home and asked Mum, and Mum just totally shut down and didn't talk about it. It wasn't until I was 24, and I was overseas, and I started hearing about all sorts of, there was one man, a French man, and he was talking about the effect of the baby in utero with what was happening to the mother's emotions and in her environment. And it made sense to me because I knew the effect that it had on Mum with the shame and judge and guilt. Yep. So I knew on some level as in utero that I was picking up on that. I'd always wanted to be a writer as a little kid. I didn't want to be seen and heard. I thought I could make a difference on a typewriter because it was a typewriter back then. But, there's a beautiful saying that as we take the first step, I'm big on sayings, as we take the first step, we're given the next 9. And so I fell into advertising. I loved advertising, so creative. Just love the whole teamwork because I'm a team player. I just love working with people, to create beauty in the world on some level and have fun. Got to have fun.
Have to.
But, through a couple of things that happened in the agency when they brought on some clients, that was a tobacco client, and one of my clients at Cancer Council had to walk away because they said they wouldn't be with an agency with a tobacco client. I started to question what I was contributing to the world. Mm-hmm. I was nearly 33. I had a successful career. I had my own home. I'd done all the things that Western culture said I should do, and yet it wasn't really fulfilling me completely. And so this is when I let go of what the Western world said I should be doing and thought I'm going to go and be a writer. And that journey took me to the Sunshine Coast in Queensland and to what was then the Hyatt Regency Coolum. And they had an outdoor experiential corporate leadership program, high ropes, low ropes.
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up being one of the facilitators there for 25 years. And I got taught to be seen and heard. And then life took me on this, the university life and this journey of facilitating people's journeys, boardroom to the jailhouse.
Yeah.
And that's where I totally get that whole thing, that what's happened to that little child, what's happened in utero, what's happened when as a village we have not held that child, held that teenager and helped them to firstly value who they are. Yeah? Yeah. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
And there's another beautiful saying, the child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.
Oh.
It's not rocket science, is it?
No.
I feel like saying, people wake up. And I actually feel like saying, for fuck's sake, people wake up.
So do you believe anyone's born bad?
Say again?
Do you believe anyone's born bad?
No, I do not. Mm. And I'm not saying that even, kids that are born into supposedly the most perfect environment, but we don't see what goes on behind closed doors.
No, we don't.
We do not see what's happening to these little babies. Many years ago, I was in a workshop and the facilitator said, if someone asks you if you were abused as a child, there are 2 answers. The first answer is yes. The second answer is I don't know. Yeah. Because as teeny babies, no one knows.
No.
No one knows.
No, we don't.
And I don't want to make this doom and gloom because it's not about doom and gloom.
No. So give us a positive thing to end on, Robyn.
Okay. You know what? I just think we are the most amazing species on this planet. And I know that as we take that first step in doing our own healing, our own accepting our innate wisdom, we then start spreading it out. We then start just being the change. And that's what it's about, be the change.
Yeah.
Change the world.
Yep. Thank you, Robyn, for being with us today. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on and share your own chocolate and coffee break. So until next time, let love be the loudest voice.